with our welcomed guest, RP Thor. It's a pleasure to have you here, RP Thor. I just recently got your book, and one phrase fascinated me. Here, guys, it's applicable to you, those of you who are watching. Never worship the ground a woman walks on. Never be that guy, or you will be picking the peanuts out of your poop to see where that poop came from.
Yes, that's a very good one. My wife gives me a bunch of crap about it. I says, but it's true. If you worship the ground she works on or walks on, you're going to be picking the peanuts out of her poo just to see where that poo came from. not
So
a
well said. Oh
not a
my
good
gosh.
place.
Yeah, I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
that we finally made it. So today we are going to talk about the detrimental outcomes that feminism leads us to. And it's a pretty scary topic. It's also fascinating to see how many people are oblivious to this topic. And yeah, I would love to get some of your insights. So, what do you think about it? And
What do
then here we have Plutarch as well. So, add your comments, guys. If you have questions, remember to reach out and send your questions and your comments in here. We'll try to keep track of them.
Yeah, we're already facing scary outcomes of feminism. Feminism was birthed right around the time of Marxism and has very much fundamental principles that they share completely. Uh, I, and we're reaping some of those outcomes today. Particularly feminism as we see it today is it's pretty scary. It's somewhat of a supremacy movement for sure, and the propaganda that's been used since the advent of really hormonal birth control really propelled this to the next level. And the concepts sound great, sounds fantastic. You know, you're no longer subject to have to control, you know, the sex that you have. You can enjoy it for the pleasure that it is that God gave us and not have to worry about a pregnancy that might occur from it. And so that sounded really good. And then it was, you know, you can go to work, make money, you could do everything a man can do, and you'll have the pleasure of working 40 to 80 hours a week and, you know, not raising your own children just like men do. And here we are today with a falling demographic. Our birth rate is below replacement here in America today, not just here, but across the entire Western world. Do you know where it is not fallen?
Where?
In Africa and in Muslim countries, they still are replacing and increasing their population. Interesting.
That is correct. But you know where it's falling faster than the Western world?
Where's that?
China.
Oh, yeah, China really toyed with this. You know, they have a very strong communist party, and for it, it's a really strange thing. They play both sides of this. You know, it's egalitarian public face. You know, I did an episode where I showed the female soldiers in China and how the public face says it's all equal. They're this, they're that. And then you realize it's, you know, it's kind of less than 2% of the entire military. And the actual bulk of the female soldiers in the military are intelligence officers designed to use their sex to gather intelligence. So it's interesting. They have that propaganda, but then they also, you know, got rid of their intellectual class when the communists took over. And they did that. There was kind of a lot of misinformation, and they had famine, and the state seized all of the means of production, and they felt like they were going to have overpopulation because, in a strange twist of events, communism has now embraced Malthusian theory, which it never did before, but in just the last maybe 70 years it has. Malthusian theory simply states that human beings unchecked will breed themselves out of existence by consuming every single resource, but it doesn't take into account human ingenuity and the fact that we are actually beings that can make decision when it comes to births. And so they made the decision to do the one-child policy. And they did that, I believe, right around, I don't know the year, but was it in the 70s? It wasn't in the 60s.
No, it was actually like 81.
80, right,
80 or 81.
It was recent. So we've only had 2, maybe 3 generations, and it just quickly so quickly it resulted in what 45 million more men than women in China proper.
And a halving, and a halving of the total number of people in that demographic. It's an old person's home, really, at this point.
Yep, that's nightmarish in nature. It's absolutely nightmarish, and you would think that the competition for men would be super strong, and it is. And if you look at what's happened, it's not for Chinese men. It's for Western men by 45%. Mm-hmm. So this world sexual marketplace has expanded to China. And where are they going for Chinese men? No. Almost half are leaving for Western men or want to leave for Western men across all age groups.
Well, those who have the looks, those women who can pull it off, there are still women who are staying in China, but in comparison to the women who are leaving, there are a lot of those. And
it's a culture in flux for sure. We'll see what happens there. But I do have people on the inside that live in China that I'm very friendly with. And the party and their, I don't know, they prescribe to a fifth generation warfare concept where they would use, they would fund our academia, just like the Soviets did in the early 60s. They would fund it through foundations or non-governmental agencies that they had control of or some controlling interest. And they would fund projects for professors, people that had professorships and things of that nature in our university system, to the point that by I believe it was the early 2000s, nearly 20% of all of the funded projects in the California State University system was funded through either the Thousand Talents program or the Confucius Institute, both CCP controlled programs. And we don't know how far back that has happened because they constantly change these foundations. And the way they hand out these grants is based on ideological beliefs. The more socialist you are, the more you're going to get these. And the outcomes of that is that these people end up going into business, into law, into government, into academia, and they start to gain power, pass laws, and it starts to become very favorable to a country such as Soviet Russia or communist China. And you can see that with how California works with works with China on the import export very, very closely. They have very close ties to California. There's a large community of Chinese here in California, but it starts there for sure.
And there's a large community up here where we are in the Pacific Northwest, and even bigger up in Vancouver, Canada. There's an interesting note there, though. The Soviet Union tried it, and the Soviet Union no longer exists.
Correct.
And because at the end of the day, it's still a strategy of weakness. It's a strategy that you would never employ it if you were actually strong, right?
I agree with that. I think that's why China will fail. And here's what I was getting at with the people that I know. Where modern feminism is strong is it's really good. It's really good at creating these networks of women in the academic area that really want this egalitarian dream, because it sounds good on paper and it actually feels good. And there's nothing that sounds bad about it, except in real life, the practical application is hollow.